You don't think the Eagles would dress Jalen Hurts, do you? As an emergency option, either he's ready to go or he's not dressing, or do you think that would be a potential possibility?
I think that would send a wrong message to the locker room. They are still furious about that Giants loss. Furious.
They
in my talking to players.
That is an awful loss.
Mac here with you on Bird Street 65. We have an esteemed guest joining us, Michael Kaye from NJ.com. What's that hat you got on?
I knew you were going to ask me this, and I didn't prepare well. I just saw it on Amazon. It looked really cool and comfortable. I think it's Mountain something, but it has an M, and, I'm Mike, so it kind of works. Plus, it's like one of those new age ones.
Is that Mountain Dew, or you should get a chip for that?
I need it for you guys waking me up early and making me prep for this.
Oh, come on. It's not early. You don't have to do any prep.
Waking up in the middle of the night.
It's not that early. But, hey, find yourself a Christmas gift. Come on. You got to go family first, Mike.
Right.
You know that. All right, let's start. We have to start with what happened to the Philadelphia Eagles. You probably had the best immediate reaction because you were able to get Boston Scott. And obviously the organization, the team was unhappy about what the NFL did, what they felt they had to do. Now you've taken a step back over the weekend. Still, what's your thought process? What have the Eagles calmed down? What is their current mindset as we get closer to game nights in the Washington football team?
Well, I was just thinking about this while you were asking the question, but this really seems like a time when having Nick Sirianni as a head coach really is effective, just because his constant energy. They're not going to lose sight of this game, right? Like, I think I wrote the other day that a trap game kind of goes out the window when you're as furious as they are with this situation. But look, I think it's objectively a screw job. Like, that's what it is for three teams. It's not just the Eagles, the Seahawks, who you just saw put 6 players on the COVID list, the Raiders, who were preparing to leave for Cleveland when they got the message. And look, the NFL didn't work with any of these 3 teams. They weren't like, hey, if we're going to move this, would you prefer this or this? I can tell you, based on my reporting, that players are finding out after they left the building. Obviously, Fridays are typically quicker days. But the team sorry, I don't want to get on Colin Cowherd's not be a QB list. The team didn't find out, didn't get full confirmation until after a bunch of national outlets reported it. So they're not happy with the way this was handled. Players are furious. Yes, they all want paychecks. Yes, the NFLPA's biggest job is to get them paychecks. But I don't understand why any of these teams would have had to forfeit, given the plan ahead rules that they did with the practice squad, with all these other, non-obstacles they put in the way from a pure on the field standpoint. Now, they have said multiple times that they will not change games or delay games for a competitive advantage standpoint. Okay, cool. Well, that's kind of what this seems like when you see Washington have, I think it's now 7 guys come back within the last 24 hours. Then you're also looking at the fact that they did threaten forfeit. That was never going to happen. John, I'm completely with you. That was never going to happen. But to then do a complete 180 and then 24 hours later agree on new protocols just seems like they wanted to buy themselves time, as opposed to, protect their players or prolong this ability to have a bunch of Washington players return. And I think for 3 teams, they're undoubtedly getting, the short end of the stick. And this was preventable, really. I still don't understand why this game needed to be moved. Now, if you said to yourself, well, the Raiders-Browns game definitely needed to be moved because of the numbers and because the Raiders are traveling to Cleveland, where that's where the locker room is that's being greatly affected. And you needed to move that one game, but to save face, you had to move 2 other games that have high COVID numbers. Then I understand the logic there from the league standpoint, but still it doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. And it does kind of seem like J.C. Treader, who runs the NFLPA, should have recused himself from any sort of negotiation.
Yeah, JC's not doing that.
Yeah, but here's
No
the thing,
chance,
though.
no shot. He worked hard to become the union
Sure.
president.
Okay,
He's going to take the advantage of it where he can.
No, he
and
definitely
did.
took advantage.
Look, and I don't want to allege a conspiracy theory, but when you've gotten done a solid, you're more inclined to listen to the person who did you the solids, negotiations the next time around. We saw very quickly how the NFL was able to clear a new protocol list.
Yes,
for
tremendous.
Players.
Funny how science and data works out with timing. Funny how that works.
Yeah, right. But that's my thing. It rings disingenuous to both the fan base and to the players who are getting, the short end of the stick. And I think if you're the 3 teams that did get that short end of the stick, I do think you need to say something to the league. I do think there needs to be some sort of adjustment, whether that's maybe getting 2 extra training camp practices in the summer, I don't know what the solution is, but I do think that I think a lot of people for the markets that were given a solid in Washington, Los Angeles, and Cleveland, they're all saying, well, why is everybody whining? They would do the same thing for the other teams. The Eagles aren't upset about having to play Washington on Tuesday, really, as much as they are upset that they have a 5-game turnaround to then play another division rival who's going to have plenty of rest in the midst of a playoff push. That's a problem for them. And they're going to play 3 games in 13 days, and that's just not a recipe for success. Oh, and by the way, they've got 16 days in between games, which means they've got to get themselves back up for that level, too, with contact, and then go immediately into this gauntlet. So I think that's the major concern. I don't think they care about playing Washington full tilt. I think they view themselves as equal or better than Washington. I think it's more of the, hey, look, for the name of safety and health, you're having them play 3 games in.
Well,
in
maybe the tweak, Mike, was Jake Fromm. That was the that was the break that the NFL gave the Eagles. No, in all seriousness, no, because where you and I differ, it's not optimal for the Eagles. Sorry, Jody, I know it's your turn, but I just want to get this follow up. So from the NFL's perspective, and I think people differentiate my thought process. I know the NFL doesn't do anything for altruistic measures. They're trying to finish this season. Forget about the NFL. Look at what's going on in the NBA, NHL, society as a whole, with these numbers spiking with completely healthy, asymptomatic players. They did it for greed, as they always do. But I think they got it right for once to be proactive. This is where society is going. This is where the NBA will go, the NHL will go, or you're not going to finish the season. So if they didn't do this, what do they do?
Well, what does 2 days make a difference? Like, that's my point. Like, I'm all for
because the games they were buying the time. You're right, Mike. They were buying time to get the union to agree to the new protocols.
And I get that, but then why not just do it after this weekend? That's what you're doing anyway.
Very true.
Well,
they could have waited, and they could have
Yeah.
screwed. The Eagles got screwed. They had their choice. They could have screwed Washington, Cleveland, or Los Angeles. They chose instead to screw Seattle, the Raiders, and the Eagles. Somebody's going to get screwed either way if they implemented the stuff in time to have it affect these games. Or you're right, they could have waited till played all the games this weekend, waited till after the Monday night game tonight, go, all right, here are the new rules. And then they would have had them going forward. They thought it was more fair to everyone across the league, and they knew they couldn't be perfect with it. Somebody was going to get screwed. They thought it was more fair to do it in the timeline that they did it.
Well, and what's interesting here is, right, and in talking to Eagles players, like, they've done all the right protocol. They put 6 players total as of yesterday on the COVID list. 6 players. Yeah, sorry. Like, that's remarkable. They have really done a very good job, and they feel like they're being punished for doing all the right things. I'm not saying, like, Washington could have avoided some of this stuff. I'm sure they could have. But, like, what type of message does that send? Like, John and I were talking the other day, and he said it would be two-faced to punish Washington for doing all the right things and having this stuff, right, John? I don't want to quote you incorrectly.
No, yeah.
Well, isn't it hypocritical to punish the one team that is doing a very good job of maintaining all these protocols and not?
Well, I guess, and that's what, and I'll lean on Dr. Sills for my answer to that, because he's the one. Look, I think it's I get why the Eagles say that, because it hasn't happened to them yet. And I think it's natural to say we've been doing all the right things. The league's belief, and again, we know the background of this league, but more Dr. Sills' belief is it's hitting everybody.
Sure.
It's 70% more contagious. It's not about someone adhering to the protocols and someone not adhering to the protocols. I think the NFL proved with Denver last year, if they have evidence that teams are not doing the right things, they will say, screw you, go play. They did that with the Broncos in the quarterback situation. So from their processes, it's coming, and it's going to hit the Eagles, even if they continue. Landon Dickerson's, but did he stop doing the right things? No.
No, and that's a fair point. But again, what does 2 days do? Other than your negotiations, which could have gone through next week anyway. They moved the Cleveland game. Suddenly this becomes a quick turnaround for...
Well, and that's where I think the J.C. Treader part comes in.
Right.
I'm fully on your board with JC taking advantage of his position to help his team a little bit. Which, so in that, from that thought process, the Eagles got caught up in circumstance. Look, my argument, the Eagles, it's not optimal for the Eagles. They got caught up in circumstance. There's no attempt to screw the Philadelphia Eagles. There's no attempt to make things more difficult for the Philadelphia Eagles. They just got caught up in a difficult circumstance. And
why not have them play earlier in the day? Why not have them play on a Monday? Why, to me, Tuesday was just Tuesday night. Okay, so there've been comparisons to last year where teams got moved to Monday. Tuesday night is a completely different situation than a Monday night. Also, it's a completely different situation than coming off a Thursday night football game and then having to play, the next Sunday, right? Or playing Sunday and then having to go to Thursday, because normally you're not a night game the Sunday before a Thursday game. These guys are getting home at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then they got to rest the next day on a Wednesday. And then they've got 2 days to practice. So Thursday, you're probably going to do a walkthrough. Friday, you're probably going to do a walkthrough. And then Saturday, you're still hurting probably from Tuesday. So then you've got to go into Sunday, and it's like, that's the difference to me. Like, I think a lot of people are missing the mark here with what this does for, not you guys, but I mean outside commentators in other markets. Like Seattle, Las Vegas, and Philadelphia are really going to have a quick turnaround. And it's not, there are going to be guys that are going to get injured. Oh, and by the way, the quarterback has a high ankle sprain. And if he plays on Tuesday and bangs that up, he's definitely not going to be available for the next week.
True. But I'll just say this. I'd be okay with the Washington football team and the Giants game being played as a doubleheader. Take about an hour in between and then get ready to go out and take on the Giants. And if you can't beat the Giants with revenge and Jeff Fromm at the helm, shame on you. You don't deserve to win. You don't deserve to make the playoffs. But you did reference Jalen Hurts. MacMan said earlier, certainly upper side of 50%. Did you give me an exact number, 80 or 85?
Yeah, I went 75.
75. All right. What's your number to Jalen Hurts with the extra 50 some odd hours by the retiming of this week's game? Jalen Hurts is the starting quarterback for the Eagles come Tuesday night.
80.
Right.
What would it have been at Sunday at 1?
60.
Okay,
I
that's
was
pretty
at
good move.
50-50, so Mike's a little bit higher, but same range. I was a little bit concerned Friday just watching Jalen stretch because he wasn't going side to side again, but the full practices was an indication that he was headed in a positive direction. Jody brought up an interesting point. I want to get your thought on this, Mike. If he wasn't playing, if they were going to Gardner Minshew in another game, you don't think the Eagles would dress Jalen Hurts, do you? As an emergency option, either he's ready to go or he's not dressing, or do you think that would be a potential possibility?
I think that would send a wrong message to the locker room, and I think it would send a wrong message to Minshew. Frankly, that's putting you ahead of Jalen Hurts on the depth chart.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's the right move. I think even from a competitive advantage standpoint, like, yeah, Minshew could get injured on the 5th play of the game, but like if that happens, you're probably running the football the entire way. So, yeah, I don't know. I just like either he's ready to play or he's not. The way you solve that is you play Jalen Hurts, and if he suffers an injury, you immediately put Gardner Minshew in.
All right, but there's 2 spinoffs there that I disagree with both of you guys. If Reed Sinnett is forced into the game and you lose, how much do you open yourself up for second guessing? Because Jalen Hurts leading into the Jet game the Wednesday before said, "Oh, I'm playing." That was now like 21 days ago that he said he was playing in the game coming up that Sunday. So he's going to be honest when asked, were you capable of playing? And if he says, I could have gone, well, then everybody and his brother's going to start second guessing the Eagles for not having him active for the game.
Well, then start him.
Excuse me?
Well, then start him.
Right. Now, here comes question number 2. He starts. He's not moving around all that well. He's moving okay, but he's not his 100% Jalen Hurts. You know what he can do with his legs. He's not taking off. He's 55% completion rate. He's not exactly moving the ball down the field. When do you pull him? When do you go to Gardner Minshew? You know you're starting him. He's not 100, but you don't know what percent he is. You can only judge that by putting him out there and judging it as he goes. How quick are you with the hook if that's the case? If you're in a tie game at half.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not Jalen, you've got to pull him. You know, you gave him the opportunity, and you have the built-in excuse of saying, look, his ankle flared up. Like, I don't think this is, like, really that hard of a situation to figure out if you're the Eagles from a PR perspective. But I also don't think Nick Sirianni really cares about that. I mean, I think he's shown in a lot of ways that that's not really – look, he knows he's going to get second-guessed no matter what he does, right? We saw Harbaugh go for 2 last night when he didn't earlier in the game. I thought it was the right call. I thought it was a terrible play call. So look, in this league, you're going to get criticized no matter what. Look, Tampa Bay is going to get criticized for last night getting blanked. I mean, that's just what it is. And so I think you can't go into a game thinking, hey, well, what happens if this, you've got to think about it from an on the field perspective, and they have to win this game. Don't get me wrong. They have to win this game. That's why I would start with Hurts. And if he's struggling, you can say, look, this was an injury situation. You're not benching him. And you can say, look, we went into this game with 2 guys preparing. We got an extra 3 days. Both of them got first team reps. If Jalen doesn't play well or is doesn't feel comfortable, we're going to move in with Gardner Minshew. And that's what you tell Fox in that production meeting. So they're prepared for it. I think that's the right move.
All right, let's talk about the Washington football team, Mike, because they still have a ton of people on the COVID-19 list. They still don't have a quarterback. Taylor Heineke's on there. Kyle Allen's on there. They signed Garrett Gilbert. He would most likely be the starter off the New England practice squad. They have Kyle Shermer. They have St. Louis Battlehawks superstar Jordan Teamu. Tuesday, Sunday, Thursday, any day that ends with a Y. Anyway, the Eagles should lose this game no matter
No,
what.
no. And you know what? Here's the thing. I think if the Giants game doesn't happen, I think there's a much larger percentage chance that they do get a surprise and lose this game. They are still furious about that Giants loss. Furious.
They
In my
should
talking
be.
to players.
That is an awful loss.
They know that they like really can't take any. I don't think they took the Giants lightly, but they know like if they're the better team, they have to beat inferior teams or banged up teams. And I think, look, the strategy kind of changes now that the defensive line for Washington's back. They're a pretty good run stopping team. I probably wouldn't be as run heavy as coming in as I would before. They're missing their best corner in Kendall Fuller, so you can attack outside. William Jackson's been up and down. I think this is a situation for the Eagles where they've got to beat them with scheme no matter who's at quarterback. And look, with Quez Watkins coming back, you guys mentioned him earlier in the show, they're going to have to take advantage of the fact that William Jackson is probably going to have to roam with Devontae Smith. The rest of their corners are not good. Most of them are undersized slot corners. So you're looking at matchups. You're looking at maybe using Dallas Goedert in ways you probably wouldn't against other teams. The Eagles should win this game. There's no question in my mind that they should win this game. Will they? It's hard to guarantee anything given what we saw against the Giants.
All right, Mountain Man Mike. Let's see if your hat helps you look into your crystal ball for some statistical prediction for this game on Tuesday night. Let's say the Eagles run the ball 35 times. Now you can attribute as many as you want to Jalen Hurts taking off and running with it, as many or as few, but they're going to run it 35 times. What's the breakdown? Who totes it how many times? Jalen, Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, put Kenny Gainwell in there if you want. You got to break down 35 for me. And yeah, I'm making this up as I go along, and you're doing the same. Please do so for me. How do you break out 35 Eagle runs on Tuesday night?
I'd say 8 for Jalen Hurts. I would say 12 for Jordan Howard. So right there, that's 20. And then I'd say 13 for Miles Sanders and 2 for Boston Scott.
So slightly Miles Sanders over Jordan Howard.
Yeah, I think you've seen what he can do with a bigger bulk of the work. I think so. And also remember, Jordan Howard's coming off the knee injury, so you probably want to kind of test him out and see how he's doing.
Is Kenny Gainwell even active?
Yes, they have to put Kenny you've got to use all the offensive weapons you have. I'm guessing that if they go into this game without Landon Dickerson, they'll have, unless they call up a replacement, they're only going to have 5 inactives. I'm guessing that's Marlon Tupuapu. I don't know.
Tuipulotu.
Yeah, right.
That's what he said.
The 2 rookie corners who have never been active, maybe Josiah Scott, and then I guess you would want, and then Reed Sinnett. You know what I mean? Like I just think you got to put Kenny out there because you do have a wide receiver who hasn't practiced all week. You do have 2 running backs who are dealing with injuries. You've got to protect yourself in that regard. But, they brought up LaRaven Clark from the practice squad, and he got a deal. You've got Dillard. You've got, with Suo Peta going to left guard, in theory, you're probably going to have Brett Toth be the backup guard. And then you got 2 swing tackles, and then Herbig would move into center if something happened with Kelsey.
Yeah, that was, Jeff Stoutland, I think at times is out there and, I think he has a greenhouse in suburban Philadelphia, and he grows guards potentially. We're going to get a chance, most likely, and who knows with the new testing protocols, but most likely Landon Dickerson is not playing. So it's going to be Sua Opeta. At some point, this has got to hurt the Eagles, right, Mike? I mean, we're down. People don't even talk about Brandon Brooks anymore, other than to get no information. Isaac Seumalo, Jack Driscoll, Landon Dickerson. Now we're down to Nate Herbig and Sua Opeta, and we're still talking about this team being run first. At what point does it hurt?
Well, after Sua Opeta, I think Sua's a little bit of a,
the Tesla stock.
Yeah, the Tesla stock. Yeah, he's a bit of an unknown, but I do think the position of left guard. I don't want to say left guard's the least important position on the offensive line, because that's not what I'm saying. But I do think if you had a spot start, if you had to pick a place to spot start a guy, it'd be left guard. I think Jordan Mailata makes up for a lot of athleticism at left tackle. Obviously, Jason Kelce is Jason Kelce. I think with right guard, if you're going to anchor your running game, you want a bigger guy, and that's what Nate Herbig is. So, and also I didn't think Jack Driscoll was particularly good as a run blocker. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think Opeta is going to have some growing pains. I don't think it'll look perfect out there, but I think if you look at the way that they've been handled, I mean, like Opeta's not just like coming off the street. He's been here for 3 years. He knows his blocking scheme very, very well. He knows what Stalin preaches very, very well. He's a former tackle in college. Like he's got athleticism. He can get out in space. I think they'll be fine here. Now, I think when you get down to the Jack Andersons and the, Andre Dillard moving into a new position, or LaRaven Clark moving into a new position, or Brett Toth playing center, I think that's when you're going to be hurt. But I think for right now, they can go a game with Sua Opeta.
All right, Michael, there's enough analytical evidence to back up the statement I'm going to make that the Eagles defense coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, gets more aggressive the lesser the quarterback they're playing against is, that he will blitz a little bit more, he'll play a little bit more press coverage, if those are the two things that you usually use to describe aggressive defensive nature. The lesser the quarterback, the more aggressive the DC is. How big a difference is it between the four guys who could actually start in this game for the Washington Redskins, with Taylor Heinicke being on the top of the mantle, and take your choice of either Shermer or Gail Gilbert, who's been there for about 20 minutes, jumping in and starting for the Saints? Does it matter this week, or should we be expecting a Jonathan Gannon aggressive defense? Because none of the Washington football team quarterbacks strike the fear of God in anyone's hearts.
No, and Heinicke and Allen, who are their top two quarterbacks, do throw interceptions. They do. I'm a Heinicke truther from his draft class. I'm a big fan of his. I like his movement in the pocket. The issue with blitzing Heinicke is Heinicke can move. Kyle Allen's got a little bit of pocket mobility, but he's not going to run away from you. I think they blitz a lot if Kyle Allen's the guy. Kyle Shermer has never played a regular season game. They will blitz the hell out of him. Garrett Gilbert's been in the offense for like 6 days, and he has a background with the offensive coordinator, so there is some knowledge. And he's been around the league. He's seen some stuff, especially in the preseason. But I think Heinicke is maybe the only guy that doesn't fit that strategy, and even then, I think he still does. If that makes sense. Like I think you've got to be aggressive here. I think you do need to blitz a lot. I think Avonte Maddox. I think the absence of Logan Thomas is a huge deal. I think that frees up your safeties to blitz and your corners to blitz a little bit more. Terry McLaurin's coming off a concussion. Outside of him, I wouldn't be that concerned at wide receiver, especially if Curtis Samuel is still going to miss the game with a hamstring injury. Adam Humphries is interesting in the slot, but it's not like he's a guy who's going to pick up yards after the catch. So I do think you're going to have the ability to blitz. I think you are going to have the ability to press. I think Slay's going to travel with McLaurin. He looks forward to that. that matchup. And look, I think if you trust Steven Nelson to cover one-on-one, which against these wide receivers I would, you feel good about blitzing and you feel good about press. Not press Taylor, but press.
Nicely done, Mike. I was going to ask you about the Saints upsetting the Bucs, complicating the playoff picture in the NFC, but I have a finite amount of time, so I have to get to the important stuff. Best hour of wrestling TV in human history, Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Page. Yes or no? Remember, Tony Khan is listening, so he will probably be angered if you say no.
No. I enjoyed it, but to me, an hour wrestling match is like overkill. Like you're doing a lot of.
It's tough in this short attention span culture.
Well, you're doing a lot of breather holds, right? You're doing a lot of rest holds. So it's like 20 minutes of the match is rest holds. My favorite hour of wrestling is probably the Ric Flair Sting draw.
There we go.
From
Clash of the Champions, the first Clash of the Champions.
Yeah, I'm a huge Sting fan. So that was when wrestling to me was still wrestling. Now it's wrestling entertainment. I know that Tony's trying to bring it back, but I don't know. I think Adam Page is a very talented wrestler. He is nowhere near the level of it is. And
he's not a needle mover.
Right.
Which the shirt, the Roman Reigns needle mover shirt. Have you seen it? Or are you going to buy it?
But I'll get it for you for Christmas.
All right. You got to get it for me. It set the internet wrestling community on its you-know-whats because it's a great shirt, by the way. Check it out when you get a chance. But Tony Khan, because I got this and you used to work in Jacksonville, anything to do with Urban Meyer hiring, I say no, not Tony's fault. Wrestling fans want to blame Tony, at least from one side, not his fault. Am I correct in saying that?
Wait, hold on, Jody. So what's your opinion on this before I give you mine?
Oh, Shad, it's his father's fault.
Yeah.
You going to blame him for Urban Meyer? No, Shad made the call.
100%. Listen,
he's more caught up in the wrestling. Can he name 7 Jacksonville Jaguars?
Yes.
I don't know that Tony Khan can do that right now.
He can name you everybody on that roster. He is
he's a nerd, a personnel nerd.
Yeah, he loves it. I've heard that he used to take statistical binders to bars. Like he's very much into it. Like he is always working. That dude, the saying "I'll sleep when I die." He is definitely into that mantra. Here's the thing. I think there's like this weird thing with Tony because I know he's a fan. He wears his heart on his sleeve, sort of. I think he's a brilliant man. I know a lot of people talk about him having his dad's money and using it and whatever, but he's really utilized it. I think what he's doing with AEW is very smart, and I think he is a very smart businessman. That said, I do not think that he was a final say here. And knowing Tony the way I do, I don't want to put words in his mouth. I don't want to speculate, but I would probably guess that he was more willing to move on from Urban much sooner than his father was. So, look, I think they knew very early on, is my guess, that this was not going to work out. And I think, you can speculate as to when a decision was made, and you can say whatever you want about Shad Khan as an owner, but he's, in my experience, I can't speak for him, is very good with employees. And so when a guy gets publicly comes out and says that he was kicked, I think that's got to be the last straw, or the kicker, as it were. And I think Tony is very caught up with his toys and wrestling, and that's good because that's what he's very, very good
what he
at.
Loves.
Yeah, you got to do what you love, right?
All right, we're running out of time. I need to bring back this back to the seriousness of football. What was the greatest play in the National Football League yesterday?
I got to think about that.
All right, I won't even make you think about it. I'll tell you what it was. Malcolm Jenkins pulling down Gronkowski's shorts. You can't grab the tights. You can't go there. He got a chunk of Gronkowski's
Malcolm played a great
and tried
game,
to pull his pants off him. right in the middle of the field. What kind of a
Yeah.
wrestling move was that?
You got to, hey, you got to
Hey,
do
look,
what you got to do.
gold dust, and he
Right.
was wearing gold. So there you
Yeah.
go.
Okay, I cut him some slack because he was wearing gold.
Yeah.
Michael, thanks, buddy. Always a pleasure whenever we get you on. Keep your distance from McMullen on Tuesday night when you have to go into the press box. I wouldn't want to sit next to him if I were you, but if you wear that hat, you might be okay.
No,
Thanks
I'll just call him and yell at him. It's all right.
Thanks for coming on, Mike. We'll have you on
Thanks,
again in a
Mike.
couple of weeks. Thanks, buddy. Michael Kaye.